All right, so we open the movie with Ed Harris on face. His face is on screen.
Given face. I feel like this cold open is perfectly designed for whoever is in charge of putting the movie on, for the person with them going, put it at the start. I want to see the beginning.
Yeah.
Which is what happened.
It is. He is playing Christoph, the creator. Christoph. Get it? Yeah. And Peter Weir suggested that he himself play this role, and he had to be talked out of it. So, and full disclosure, we were recording this a day after we recorded our history segment. I've watched the movie again, and all I could think about was how much Ed Harris is supposed to be Peter Weir, or like what Peter Weir thinks of directors. And, you know, there's things like directors sometimes are bitter that audiences don't know what they do and focus on the actors and the words they say. And they're like, you only like the actors because of me, because of the camera angles and the music and
I'm the maestro.
Yes.
I'm whispering in people's ears. I wear a beret. Did Weir wear a beret?
I don't think so.
It was a choice.
But yeah, I mean, beret. Well, is this a beret? What is this?
Or whatever. It's like a painter's hat. It's like it's a beret.
Yeah, it's semiotics equals artiste.
Yes, whatever the fuck it is, it's that.
So he explains, we've become bored with actors giving us phony emotions. While the world he inhabits is in some respects counterfeit, there's nothing fake about Truman himself. It's alive. And then Truman is in his bathroom mirror camera, and he's doing imaginary play with himself.
Rewording, please. Imaginary play with himself doesn't sound great.
Well, you know, he's
doing an imaginary play by himself.
There we go.
Okie dokie.
Laura Linney is in a talking head, and she's like, the Truman Show, for me, there's no difference between a private life and a public life. The Truman Show is a life, a noble life, a blessed life.
When does she get to spend her money?
I assume it's when her character goes to work, that's when she leaves.
Oh.
That's like when she goes home or whatever.
She can't go far because if he goes to check on her.
Yeah. They have to say she's in surgery or whatever. That must be it, because they're so surprised that it doesn't work on him. Or no, I mean, when he goes to the hospital, they're like, oh no, she's in surgery right now. And they totally expect him to just turn around. But he just pushes. And then Noah Emmerich is Marlon, the best friend. He's like, nothing you see in the show is fake. It's merely controlled. And Truman continues imaginary playing with himself. And then his wife calls, Truman, you're going to be late. So like from the start, he is a child. Like it's his mom.
He's in pajamas.
Calling him to get ready for school.
And why the choice to style her this way, even the products they're selling I know it's supposed to be like an idealized middle America thing, but why prudish 50s?
So I was thinking about that too. And I think, Christoph, I think you can read him as,
conservative?
Longing for his own childhood and trying to recreate it and allow somebody else to perpetually live in the childhood he imagines, in the Walt Disney childhood. But there's also this weird thing, like people think Hollywood is like this liberal sicko land, but I think Hollywood is as old fashioned and conservative as whatever, your average Fox News viewer. They also like have this idealized vision of America.
Well, they have an idealized vision of old Hollywood, of when it was like the most glamorous thing, the most like people didn't know about it. It was they still had their secrets. There wasn't so much access. It could just be glamour and red carpets. Mm-hmm. Like even her hair in her like in camera interview is like Rita Hayworth or something. Like it's not what she wears on the show. It's a different version of a glamour person from old Hollywood. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I think that Choo-choo train went away.
I think that's true, but I think that Hollywood does have a weird fetishization of small town America, and of like, actually, we might vote for different candidates, but we're all the same, and you're real good people. You're real good folk at the end of the day. I think there's something like that. And like Peter Weir as a Hollywood somebody from a different country coming into Hollywood being like, you guys are obsessed with some weird shit.
You think it's because people in Hollywood feel so out of touch that they long for like the garb or they signal that they're very in touch while just signaling again that they're out of touch.
And then they do that by being like super pro-military and pro-war. And at the end of the day, not actually believing anything significantly different from what conservatives in America believe. They just kind of paint it differently. Most Hollywood movies are about like family values when you boil them down to it, or they're about whatever. You don't care.
I don't not care. Just waiting for it to be interesting what you're saying. I'm just kidding. Kidding.
So this is day 10,909, which translates to 29 years, 11 months.
Okay.
Meant to look up Jim Carrey's age. He seems older.
He does.
Truman is leaving for work in the morning. He greets his neighbors, this enormous Dalmatian Pluto. Same thing every day. He is such a joy to everybody with his catchphrases.
They've intentionally made him scared of dogs and intentionally put a huge dog as his neighbor's dog to terrorize him every morning. He does not like getting in his car at work. He's scared every time. It's just this very interesting, very Lumen thing to do, this like destabilizing moment right before you get in the car and like feel good about yourself and go to your work. You're like, oh, I'm a scared little bitch. I better not drive too far.
You're right. I didn't even think of that because they have the thing where with him as a kid being scared of a dog who's like by the
pier.
Yeah, by the pier. So yeah, just put in these things that he can be afraid of. So
like it's a literal boundary around his house.
Mm-hmm. And Laura Linney later is like, let's just go back home where you'll feel safe.
Exactly. And at any moment that neighbor could be walking his dog. So if Truman were to be trying to get out of like where the director wants him on the other side, he just appear on the other side and walking his dog.
Yeah,
and,
you're right.
Pluto can jump on him. And you know, that's what's really cruel about this world they've built for him is they've built a really scared person. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think it's just this perfect metaphor for religion. Everything is all your thoughts are too wild. If you're going off script at all, you're going toward the devil. You're going toward danger. And so let us give you some things to imagine that danger, what that looks like, what hell might look like, what a sinner's life looks like. That's what they're doing to him. They're scaring him enough to keep him in line.
You see religion, and I think that I really, really see it as a parent, a really neurotic parent, instilling just the fear of everything into their kid. And often those parents will use religion to get their kids to be afraid of everything.
Yeah, a neurotic parent for sure, but for Truman, it is specifically to keep him not touching water, not going outside, not fantasizing or ever challenging going outside of the dome that he doesn't know he's in. So it's like that feels like the harshest part is that he doesn't really have anyone in his life who truly loves him. I mean, maybe these actors end up caring about him, but even the dad who forces himself back on the show only was upset that he got pushed out the show, not because he misses Truman.
Yeah. And if they love him, they love this warped version for whom everything has been a fabrication. So you have no idea if you love who this guy really is. Yeah. At the end of the movie, he tells Ed Harris, you never had a camera inside my head. You don't actually know me. You don't actually know what I'm really about.
Well, and that's why that goes back to religion. Like what we're teaching people to do is mask how they actually feel. What they've taught Truman to do is not, he knows it's not safe to say these thoughts, to have these feelings. He won't even have a woman's magazine because that's already been, shat on. He hides this face he's building. He hides the things he actually likes to do. It's just like ABA therapy for people on the spectrum. We're teaching people to mask. We're not teaching them to be who they are.
Well, you can also read it as somebody coming out as gay or trans and the world being like, what are you talking about? No, you're not. Or that doesn't even exist. Look at the front page of the newspaper. Scientists say heterosexual sex, it's the only way to go.
And look at, you have a wife. See?
So this was filmed in, the town of Sea Haven, an idyllic beachside island. It was really filmed in Seaside, Florida, which is between Destin and Panama City on the Florida Panhandle. I have driven through this city, in fact.
Oh my God, you're connected to this movie.
Wow, I didn't know that it was the Truman Show. This city was built in the 1980s under the philosophy of new urbanism. It's one of these there's so many fascinating, weird little places in Florida like this, where it's a master planned community. It's all privately owned by like one person. There's no local government. But the architecture there is very interesting, and you can visit the Truman Show house in Seaside. But the way that like this is filmed,
it looks so fake. It looks like a set.
Mm-hmm,
yeah,
very much. And I was looking up YouTube videos of this town, and everybody's like, you feel like you're in a movie when you're in the town, or you feel like you're in Disney World.
Yes, that's what it looks like. Main Street, USA, on every fucking street.
Which is like...
Also, the excessive use of the guys picking up trash. There's like 3 in one shot. And I know they're there to like be muscle in case he gets erratic and does something weird. But there's 3 men who are supposed to pick up trash. You can't see any trash on the ground, but they are using a little grabber, putting in. There's nothing they're actually putting into anything. And there's so many of them. And it's just like Disney World, right? Like you're not even allowed to have a piece of popcorn on the ground. There's someone that shoots right out of a fucking manhole and sweeps it up wearing his little, good day, hello, madam, fucking newsy hat.
And Truman's mother later on, like, basically lets you know what she thinks of homeless people and riffraff. Like, this is like we want a perfect world. No homeless, no poverty anywhere. You can't see it. If it's there, we'll take it out and hide it from you. But it's interesting, this town built in the 1980s to try to both recreate a classic Main Street and try to, have like a walkable city, but without any of like the history of actual like urban centers where things naturally develop in a way where people can like walk and there's a town center and stuff. Instead, it's all artifice.
Yeah, everything looks like the front of a set, and the back you expect it to look like not put together at all. Like all the house fronts just look like they should be propped up.
Yeah.
On a A-frame.
So but the way this is shot is you will get the shots that are within like the circular frame, which are the cameras within the show that are catching him. And then you'll get like regular movie shots, but they're at this part of the movie, they're a little janky. Sometimes they're handheld, they're from low angles. Just to let you know, something's a little off. Truman feels a little bit off. And as he starts to understand better, they become more stable and they become more normal. And then this light inexplicably falls from the sky. Truman doesn't know what it is, where it's from.
Something I noticed on this watching that I don't think I noticed before, and it's what is weird to him. He's having these big reactions to things, and it's like all of the people on the set have been told to stay calm and to pretend like nothing weird is happening, but they do it too much. They do it so much that they're not human, and over and over again in the movie, he's looking around to see I'm causing a huge commotion, and no one is looking at me. Or no one thinks I'm weird, except for when like they physically have to stop him from doing something. But even then, they just, okay, bye. There's no consequences. Everyone is so underplaying everything that they're looking fake instead of making him feel comforted.
You're right. I was thinking that too. Like they're insisting way too much that things are okay and good. If they toned it down a little bit, it would feel more real to him. But everyone he talks to is like, no. Like this light falls and immediately he's hears on the radio.
Well, and he's looking around. He's looking around. There's no one out to go to work. Why is he the only one that sees this big giant thing fall and crash to the ground, and he's picking it up and moving it around? It's like all the actors have left their houses. No one's actually in them to look, and you're off script. You're supposed to be in your car by now, and who's keeping track of you is the radio person. We're not on the clock right now, so we're not even here to react to you.
Yeah.
And that's the big giveaway is that it's Ed Harris in everyone's ear. Every time someone needs to be told in direct, he's literally feeding the script, because it all does sound like one homogenous voice. It doesn't sound like these people have personalities.
Yeah, you're right. And he gets in his car. He hears on the radio immediately, "Hey, folks, we just got reports of an airplane dropped off some weird shit. You might have seen it in the streets. Nothing to worry about, though, folks." And I love Jim Carrey when he hears this. He's like, "Oh,
yeah." I didn't know.
But so again, the idea of like the perpetual child whose parents are telling the child lies to keep them protected from the ugliness of the world. Do you remember? Sorry to derail us, but when the older child that we have was maybe 2 or 3 years old, you had this thing. I remember them being accidentally very concerned about birds eating food that they dropped outside. And
no, they were hugely obsessed with not littering. With you do not put things on the ground. And that's when I made up the rule that as long as a bird can eat it, we can leave it on the ground.
But there was something that happened where they left a bagel.
I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
We were trying to get them into the car, and the bagel went on the ground. They were adamant we were littering and needed to be picked up. And I said, no, that is, a bird can eat it. and you're gonna make a bird's day. You're gonna make them so happy. So when they got home, I had written a note as if I were the bird and put it in the same spot where it was. And I pulled up to that spot and the kid got out and was like, you were right.
Okay, I'm glad you remembered that.
Yes, of course. That kid brings it up all the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, to me, it's like this obscure memory.
It's a core memory. No, for them, it's a core memory. Also, that and the damn ball, the bouncy ball that I had to. Ugh, that's a whole other.
We won't
for another time.
Yes. And then the radio station's like, okay, anyway, enough of that unpleasant list. Now let's get back to our normal things we play. Classical music to calm you down. Right, so for this is. We got to keep the child calm.
Miss Casey's Wellness from Severance. Like, oh, you're getting rowdy. Let's tell you about your outie. That rhymed.
He gets to work. He sells insurance or something.
God, he does. Or something that needs policy. But you got to think they picked this job for him because he needs a win when they want him to feel energized or some kind of motivation for a win. And he needs to lose or have a bad day when they need to take him down a peg. So it's like they gave him a job where he doesn't actually have any control over winning or losing. He's doing the same good job with everyone. He's not actually winning any accounts unless they pretend he is, or losing them. It's kind of a perfect way of going, your temperature needs to be dialed this way. You won an account.
Yeah, they can turn the happiness dial for him.
Or bring it down, buddy. Bring it down. You want to go to Fiji? You just lost a big account. You don't have the money for that. They keep him just poor enough, but enough money to be happy. But his wife constantly brings up money anytime he wants to do something.
Yeah, and later when she says, all right, let's save for a few months and then we'll go to Fiji, and they'll maybe have him lose his job in the meantime.
Right.
And a big crisis will happen. Yeah.
Well, and they need to save, but as soon as the lawnmower is not working, why don't you pick up one of those new lawnmower, because it's a spot, it's a TV commercial. She's just like, just buy a brand new lawnmower. You just said we can't go to Fiji.
Yeah.
Which is it? I'm just going to fix it.
We're going to not buy products? He is like secretly already like he has secrets. He's secretly opening up the magazine. And at first you're like, he's ogling the ladies in the catalog. Now he's ripping out pictures for some reason.
And he clearly bought Eyeball magazine because every page is just a perfect lady's face. It's like they want this. They like that he's doing these weird things. He's clearly obsessed over this woman that went away. It's not a secret. The whole world is watching him build this face.
No, I know, but
so they keep. No, I know, love. But I'm saying I think it's interesting when you look at the magazines that are available, it is just different women with just their face. They're giving him the supplies to build the thing he's building. It's like, look, here's every woman's. Here, do you find anything in here that would look a little bit like her? Like they're progressing the storyline by giving him what he needs to make it happen.
Okay, I assumed it was a real magazine, but okay. That's interesting.
No. And Dog Fancy isn't either.
I thought it said Elle. I don't know. You could tell me any magazine is real. I'd be like, oh, yeah.
I think it's like She. She is the magazine. It's not.
And then he's making phone calls to directory assistants Fiji. So is this an actual outside phone line? Do they let him have access to the phone?
There's no way. No.
But as he's doing this, his coworker comes up. He's like, Truman, you see the news? And the front page of the newspaper says like, experts say Sea Haven the best town in the world.
And he's just like doing exactly what someone over their cubicle would do. He'd be like, get the no. I'm on the phone.
But again, this is the parent who has the kid and they live in a small town and are very afraid your kid's going to leave one day. You're like, but this is the perfect place.
Right.
What else is there? There's nothing you could ever want.
Put it in, got you a birthday present. New Haven. Perfect town.
But hey, buddy, you have a new client over on Harbor Island, so we need you to go out there. You better do it or you might lose your job.
Fuck, what is this fucking job? And it's a coveted job, Matt. It's a office job. They can only afford to put 4 offices in this dome. So, wow, his best friend makes sure to let him know. You have the bet. You're all the way at the top. Your job. But obviously, this is just a ploy to. He's looking into Fiji, so not to go there, but he is calling around. So they have to reinstill this fear in him, and they're going to make him go by the water where he avoids it all the time with a little sunken boat to really fuck with him.
Well, he goes and he buys the ticket, and the ferry terminal guy's like, one way or return? He's like, well, Return, of course. And then you go inside the ticket booth and you see the guy then open the blind so that the camera can follow him. And then the guy pokes his head out.
Because he's watching the show too.
But it's not unusual for Truman. Everybody's always watching
always
him.
Doing this.
So as he walks to the dock, he sees they've just put a sunken boat right there for him to look at and be traumatized by. As though he's like, no, you guys go ahead on your boat trip. That's fine. Then we go and we meet Laura Linney as his wife, Meryl, and she is this very old-fashioned nurse who wears a very old-fashioned nurse's cap. She goes to market and comes home, and she's like, look what I got, Truman. It's the chef's pal. It's a grater, dicer, peeler, all in one. Never needs sharpening, dishwasher safe. Whenever she does a little ad read, the camera will zoom in on her. Mm-hmm. And he never seems to know how. He's like, okay.
But he's aware it's weird, right? It's like, but you grew up with this. This is how everyone who's got a major role in your life has to do their commercial spots. But he's never had the urge to do it himself. That's how he knows he's different. Because you can also read this as a person with autism, right? Like he's experiencing this world in a way that no one around him is. And he's constantly like, is it me? Am I weird? Or was that fucking weird? Mm-hmm. I don't get you people. And I would probably not even have a partner in this world if you weren't forced to be with me, because I'm not like anyone else here.
Every time I've worked in an office that you did not also work at, I felt like this. I felt insane. Everyone here is so happy. They're talking to each other in a language I don't understand. They're laughing. They're sharing stories. And I'm like, now that's because I'm antisocial. I need my Lacey to force me to talk to people.
Okay, well, you said something adorable, so I'm not going to make you mad right now, but we're going to have to talk about that later.
All right, so then he goes to hit golf balls off a bridge with his best friend Marlon, Noah Emmerich, who's a better ad pitch man than Laura Linney because he will just hold the label of his thing up in front of the camera. Although I guess they're not telling him, well, he says, no, that's a beer.
Yeah, he says a tagline, but he definitely works it into the conversation, though, where she's just like, bleh.
Yeah, maybe she's over it. Maybe she was better at this when they first got married.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Hey, Marlon, I'm thinking of going to Fiji." And he's like, "Fiji? Where's that even in the world?" And he takes out a golf ball. And I love the way he describes this. He says, "We're here." And then he goes all halfway around the golf ball. And he's like, "And here's Fiji. You can't go any further away before you start coming back." Mm-hmm. What a poetic little thing to say.
Yeah.
And so then Noah Emmerich is like, "Hey, do you want to go get a drink?" It's like, well, that's what you're doing right here.
Right.
But he's like, no, I have something to do. And what he has to do is go sit on the beach by himself and look out at the ocean and ponder.
He's truly alone. Mm-hmm. He's going through his resources. Work, that didn't work out. Wife, that did not work out. Best friend, meh. By myself now.
We get this flashback of him and his dad on a boat in a storm, and then his dad falling overboard and drowning. And in the present, it starts raining, but only on him. And he steps out of the rain and it follows him. And he just like exclaims in joy and wonder.
He's so amused by it. It is wild.
So, I mean, this is just the people upstairs fucking up.
Yeah. Okay. Now I had him so the light and this, they happen very close together. And I guess you could read it as like shit like this is always getting fucked up. It's a huge set. There's a lot of workers. Like, how could you keep it all together all the time? But then I thought, oh, maybe, the woman that he fell in love with, maybe she got a job at the company and she's doing these little things like he's finally ready to see it. So she's making, or has been all along, trying to sabotage. And then of course that's not actually, but as we're watching, I'm like, cause I too was like, oh, this happens all the time. This stupid shit.
Yeah,
like
if it were a TV show, that would be happening.
Right. And then when you think about it, it's just like it's a big set, but it's just a bunch of regular people. Mm-hmm. But you got to think, like, this isn't the way that rain operates inside of this dome. That looks like a shower. That doesn't make sense at all. And even when they turn on the full rain, you still can see this piece of it completely separate from the rest of it. So, like, that was just that's just funny. Mm-hmm. It's just a funny way to see a mistake.
And like we were talking about Severance, it's like the simulation that only renders things you're looking at. This rain that will only rain where you're standing, to try to give you the illusion that it's raining everywhere. But he runs home to talk to his wife, and his wife is always fully made up, even though supposedly this is like late at night and she's getting ready for bed. And he's like, hey, listen, we can save up $8,000 and bum around the world for a year. And she's like, but no, we have mortgage payments and financial obligations. And don't you want to have a baby?
Which is crazy.
So it's, live the American dream with me. Home ownership, babies, endless debt, and consumption.
What do you think they're going to pay an actress to have an actual baby? And then legally that baby is half of this man that you don't even actually love. You've been asked as a fucking profession to marry him and have a baby with him, and then you share corporate baby? I don't.
Yes, indeed. What a question. Would they fake that she's pregnant and then they just bring in another orphan baby? But then she's like seductively is like, but it's time for bed. And this is the first time we cut away to the real world, to the to the garage security guys watching. And they're like, you never get to see anything good. It always cuts away when they're about to have sex.
The whole time, aren't you just thinking like how boring this must have been before he got to dating age, or just what you're watching a baby?
Yeah, I know. The show started when he was born. Oh, we get to watch a baby. The baby doesn't even know he's on camera. The real babies don't either.
Oh my God, he's a toddler. It definitely is something you probably just check into. But like, you'd think there'd be shows built around just giving you like highlights, because most of it's just that little camera you put by like baby chick eggs to see when they're going to hatch. You just check in, like the Nature Channel or whatever. It's like, ooh, what's happening with the baby chicks?
Yeah, when the Olympics are on, you can get the sports package where you can see every single event live, or you can see the condensed like nightly broadcast of here's all the important shit. So maybe that's going on too.
And that's why I think, they encourage things like him building the magazine, because an ordinary life is ordinary and boring. So they've got to they add drama for the sake of the show and for the sake of keeping him in line. But you got to think they were always adding things.
I'm no scholar of the real world, but I think my understanding is the first season was like, yeah, these are real people. And they realize in between season 1 and 2 is like, we need to insert conflict into this to make it more.
Yeah.
And it becomes more artificial, but it makes it a more compelling drama.
Yep.
And we need to manufacture conditions in the house that they live in to increase the tensions.
Right. Like all the girls sleep in one room. All the guys sleep in one room. So if they want to hook up, now they're got to do it in front of each other, or like different, or like there were definitely seasons where they maybe all of them, where they all had to have a job. And I think when they was in New Orleans, they had to work at the radio station here. I think I might be totally making that up, but they would make them all also work together. Because you have to, they can't just be hanging around the house. That's too fun. You also need to depend on them and get mad at them.
The next day, Truman passes a weird looking guy in the town square and he's like, Dad? And he goes over to him and it is his dad and he touches his face. But then the score immediately gets very intense and extras like spring into action and they confiscate the dad, put him on a bus. I just kept thinking this movie is like the extras are all like white blood cells attacking a virus or attacking a contagion. Mm-hmm. So he goes over to his mother's house, his mother played by Holland Taylor. And she's like, yes, Truman, I see him all the time, 10 times a week. I almost hugged a stranger.
No.
And he's like, but then like a businessman and a woman with a little dog, they came out of nowhere and they just forced him onto a bus. And she's like, well, it's time they did something about the homeless in this town.
They've got an answer for everything. Like he's got to feel like he's not sure-footed or like as quick as a thinker, because there's not anyone in his ear telling him what to say, where they are always prepared with exactly what to say, because Truman can only be in one spot at one time. So of course the producer's in their ear and feeding the exact right thing to propel the script. So there's no like normal silence and breaks in conversation or like time to think, because they don't need time to think. He does. Mm-hmm. So he's got to feel like, God, I'm just not as fast as you guys.
Mm-hmm. And they're also always talking in such a way to like reset and provide exposition to people who might just be tuning in. Mm-hmm. She's like, of course, that day you went off in the storm with your dad. Of course, I've never blamed you for that. Didn't blame you back then. Don't blame you now. So yeah, we just have to awkwardly always like a radio DJ who's like always, right. Yeah, top of the hour.
And yes. And that's when we see that they do show clips. They will do flashbacks. Like they will assume that he's sitting there thinking about something. So they'll show a clip from that. It's like, oh, of course, that's how you build out the content. So I'm sure the show wasn't as good in the beginning. And it's just as there's things to think back to, like there was a couple of funny things that happened when he was 3 years old. So when he's 5 years old and things are kind of like that, play those. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Ed Harris said when they started the show they only had one camera. Now they have 6,000. So yeah, it was probably really boring back then.
Yeah.
But Truman, he's in his basement, and this basement is he's set up a childhood bedroom that he retreats to in
I didn't notice that.
The basement. like complete with a toy chest full of toys and stuff.
Oh.
And as he's coming down here, he hears his wife coming down the stairs. So he gets up and acts like he's working on the lawnmower. He's doing a man thing. And she's like, hey, you ought to throw out that old mower. Get one of those new elk rotaries. And he's like, what an odd thing to say. But she leaves.
Yeah.
And then once she's gone, he pulls out an old sweater from the toy chest. And it's, well, we cut to the real world, this bar where this bar is, as Lacey said, the Truman Show superfan bar. But there's like a new bartender who's not as familiar with the show. And she's like, so what's going on here? And they're like, oh, see, now he's about to remember. He's about to have a flashback to this girl that he met in high school.
Like he's having it. And he's not, we don't know what he's thinking, but the show decides, I know what you want to think about. And then they show all her wearing that sweater. And the kiss.
Yeah. So in high school, I mean, tell us about this high school thing.
Is this high school?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Because Truman and Marlon like play in the high school band, and they've clearly like set it up so that Laura Linney is the new actress who's going to run into him and start a romance, but he's going off script by keep continuing to notice this girl who's Lauren on the show, really Sylvia, played by Natasha McElhone. And like he looks over at her and they smile, and you can see Marlon noticing it too, and then trying to distract him, coming and like blowing a trumpet in his face. It's like, no, you're not supposed to be looking over there.
Right. We've got this whole cheerleader that's going to pretend to follow on you in a second. And we've got her under contract. So you're going to need, she's already agreed to the whole thing.
No, this is very a wide casting net to find her.
We vetted, we made sure she's not some radical. She's totally okay with this whole idea. She's willing to have a baby if needed. But, and we can kind of decide what we can infer that Sylvia has political thoughts around the show and what it's doing. I don't think she became radicalized on the show. I think she's there because she's curious about it and feels that it's not correct to be doing to a person. She's got a little pin that says, "How's it going to end?" That's clearly the show that she's talking about, not some other random like protest. And I don't know. They have a connection. They lock eyes. They feel something.
And they're at like this 1940s school dance where they're dancing to big band music, and he's dancing with Laura Linney, but he keeps locking eyes with this new girl. And then the new girl gets escorted out by some like security officers, which he notices.
And he notices her bracelet. And then we go to a library scene where Laura Linney and his best friend are trying to talk him into going to have a beer or whatever it is they want to do in high school. And he's like, no, you guys are going to need to cheat off me, or we're all going to get a bad grade or whatever. Anyway, he wants to stay and study. And then he notices across in the next cubicle, the same bracelet. It's her. So
why would they let her in here? It's so close. She's already been escorted off.
But I think they realize they've got to do something.
Good drama, yeah.
Yeah.
So she's like, hey, I'm not allowed to talk to you. And he's like, what? Oh, is it because you have a boyfriend? No. And he's like, well, would you want to go out with me maybe this Friday? And she writes on her notebook, now. He's like, now. And she says, if it doesn't happen now, it's never going to happen. Yeah. So she escapes with him to the beach.
And I'm thinking the whole time, like, wait, how are they letting this happen at all? If they don't want this. And then it's like, oh, duh, they do want this. They don't want her to tell him that this is fake. You're in a show. They want her to be a love interest that's not, they want to cause the drama. They're giving him just enough rope to like do something interesting. But as soon as she starts saying things that she shouldn't be saying, which was her whole purpose to begin with, that's when the dad comes shooting out on the beach in his car to pick up his daughter. How the fuck did he know she was there? Did he drive over a dune? Yeah. How did he get there?
Yeah, well, so she just heard, they're like, Truman, it's a show. Everything is fake. Everybody's pretending. My name's not Lauren, it's Sylvia. And her dad's like, no, she has schizophrenia. It's really sad, but we're moving to Fiji. You'll never see her again. Don't worry.
You're not the first person this happened to. I've did a lot of guys. Like,
lots of boyfriends. So many boyfriends. But yeah, it's sad. Everything's fake. Everybody's lying to you. And she says, get out of here, escape here, and then come find me. And then they drive off, and he's like, I'll see you at school. But she's left her sweater behind, and he has clung to it all this time. And then the new bartender's like, I can't believe he married Meryl on the rebound. So even she's immediately getting an opinion. Just like with real reality TV, people get their opinions about certain people. But back in the present, we see what Truman is doing. He's using the magazine photos to try to piece together her likeness. And then we cut to the real Sylvia, who is tuning in all the time to the show. And I started to really think about Vertigo, Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo. But I'll get to it when there's it really the parallels really start up later.
Okay.
But just right here, like Jimmy Stewart trying to recreate this woman from his past who wasn't even real, who was manufactured even then. But then, okay, so he is in the car and the radio malfunctions and suddenly he tunes into the radio frequency that all the crew members talk on, and you just get this moment where they're narrating what he is doing in the car. And this is not only my favorite scene in the movie, it's like one of my favorite scenes in movies, period.
Yeah.
It is so
eerie.
scary.
Yes.
It is like if you just made this into like an 8-minute short film and you like made this a little longer and took a little while before he realizes what's going on, like it would be so awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And then he like nearly hits a woman. Oh my God, he nearly hit her. A big radio beep goes out and then all the extras react at one time. And then the regular radio DJ comes back. Sorry, folks, we must have picked up a police frequency by mistake. But yeah, it's like out of it. You could have this as a dream. Somebody just narrating everything I'm doing. And I think, there's been like movies about video game characters like the freaking Ryan Reynolds Free Guy movie where maybe this is more in the public consciousness now of somebody getting an understanding that they are being controlled. But this is what makes him now like he's wandering through the town square and he's just slowing down and realizing kind of how odd everything is. Not that odd. Not that he's able to really even notice, but if he goes off his normal path, things seem to go a little differently. And he's like, will rapidly change directions or bend down to tie his shoes. And then he steps out in front of a bus and just holds his hand out and then holds his hand out to another car.
He's control. I mean, it's like, oh, you should be Bruce Almighty one day because he's realizing he's like some kind of a god.
I am a god.
He knows that everything's centered around him, but he doesn't know why. He's been chosen. It has something to do with his dad, maybe. You just... And the thing with the radio, like, it just sucks. He knows right away. No one's going to believe him. And it's the weirdest thing that's ever happened to anyone.
And they're going to explain it with something really lame. Sorry, folks. Looks like we picked up a police frequency by mistake. So Truman runs into this office building that he's never been in, and everybody in this lobby like snaps to action like white blood cells. They're like, whoa, what are you doing here, sir? You can't be in here. And an elevator shaft opens, but it's not an elevator. It's just a craft service backlot thing.
Yep.
And they just throw him out. So he sees his friend Marlon in a grocery store and he goes to talk to him, and his friend Marlon is restocking a vending machine. You get
through the vending machine.
Yes, shot. Vending machine cam. And I noticed that Marlon, he's like loading candy bars into the thing. And whenever Truman doesn't look, he takes them back out so he can put them back in again.
Yeah.
Like he's just playing for time to just keep Truman talking. Just a fun little detail. So he's like explains everything, and he's like, Truman, this is just another one of your fantasies. But he's like, you know what? I feel like my whole life has been leading to something, and I think what that thing is that I'm leaving. He's like, why would you want to leave? I've been all over the world. Never found a place as perfect as this, though.
And okay, so now because he's getting this wonders spirit, and this is just how people feel sometimes. I think you're kind of born with this like, I don't know if it's your surroundings and maybe it's nature and nurture, but like I had a best friend who just needed to leave. That this was never going to be where they stayed, and they didn't ever want to stay put. They every now and then switch states. It's just, and of all the babies that could have been born, they had to have a wanderlust baby. Maybe a different baby born and named Truman would have just wanted to stay put, but they weren't that lucky.
Some people want to move to different states. Some Lacey Roths just want to move to different apartments. And when she can't do that, she's like, well, and she gets itchy. She's like, I need to paint this room. I need to rearrange the bed.
Yep. Because we all get that itch. We're just not all that brave. And so they're like, okay, well, we need to get him real sentimental then and prove to him that outside places exist as well. So it's just a shot, or they're at his mom's house, and the wife and the mom are on either side of him looking at a photo album that you just know they've seen 100 fucking times and reminiscing about stuff as if it had just, like, I can't believe this is in here. This picture of you at Mount Rushmore.
Oh, our wedding. Remember that?
Remember this, honey? We got married.
Mount Rushmore looks a lot smaller. Yeah, things always do when you see them anyway.
And you were asleep the whole time we were on the road. It's fucking creepy because they gave him a pill or something. And he knocked his ass
him
out
in the parking lot for 12 hours. But then the mom and Laura Linney leave, and so he is just flipping through the photos and sees a picture of the I guess the moment they wed legally, and Laura Linney has her fingers crossed, and he's like, fingers crossed, say what? And so the next morning he's like, he doesn't know if his wife is in on it yet. He's like, hey, can I talk to you outside? And she's like, no, I have to go. And he's like, why do you have to go? And she said, well, there was a big accident, and it was a big elevator accident at the office you actually work at next door.
Right. It's like, how does that explain that there's people eating lunch, sitting in fucking director's chairs when you open an elevator? That's how they die. They all crashed and went into craft services heaven.
This is just another we're explaining too much. We're insisting too much. Like, you didn't have to explain this. You
didn't even have to know that I saw that. I mean, you saying it makes me feel like... Yeah.
And so she's like, well, we have an emergency amputation. I got to go. Poor girl. We're going to take off her leg. Wish me luck. I'll cross my fingers for you. And
that actually did, because that you get the sense that maybe she's doing that often when she's saying something. She's asked to say something she doesn't mean. That might be her thing. So because she seems to know that that's like pointed at her, which is like, why? Why would she, feel like he was being a dick?
She gets on her bike to go to work. And again, I assume that this is when the actress leaves the set and gets to go live her life for 8 hours. But instead, she's told in her walkie or whatever, hey, he's following you to work. So you actually have to go to the hospital this morning. And the hospital's like,
we need people in here to look like they're doing hospital stuff.
Do hospital stuff. What does that mean? I don't know. Scalpel, stethoscope.
Well, but the whole hospital needs to be inhabited too, because normally this could just be an empty building. So it's just like, we need crutches. We need to everyone put on the props that are in the hospital thing when you walk through the door. Lady with dog, put down dog. Pick up crutches. Like, And just like everything, they overcorrect. And now it's like the most crowded. Like, there's not enough people in this town to make Main Street that crowded every time he walks to work. But they just put a bunch of fucking... It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
There are only so many fucking houses in this town. So why are there so many people at the fucking hospital right now?
Yeah, and as he, makes his way into the surgery ward, things keep getting in his way. Like 10 people on wheelchairs wheel in front of him, and he's like, no, this doesn't make sense. Or it's like Inception, where the longer you stay in a dream, the more the people in the dream will know that you don't belong there, and they will resist you. It's like that. Which I think is also the metaphor of white blood cells. I think that was intentional. It's like a body fighting off a disease.
Right.
But he sneaks to the surgery ward or whatever it is, and the people, Laura Linney's in there with the doctor actor, and they're like, so yeah, I'll just
cut right above the knee here, and it's a perfect leg. Like, there's nothing wrong with this leg, and the person's still awake.
Do they actually cut her leg off? I can't tell.
No, she thinks they're going to.
But then the guy's acting like, okay, I'll let somebody else clean this up. Like he actually did something. I mean,
he might cut her a little or something. I don't know. They definitely try to put her to sleep.
It's a little too, I feel like the movie should be like, they'd be willing to just cut off a woman's leg to keep up this artifice.
They all sign waivers, okay? Exactly. They want to be part of this human experiment. There are sacrifices.
So he goes...
Oh, I didn't even notice the picture of okay, so he's in the travel agent place, and of course we all notice the poster of "It Could Happen to You," and it's lightning going through a flying airplane. I didn't realize that right next to it was a boat in the water. That's just like the one, it's identical to his boat.
Yes. But I love this plane poster so much because it's not normally this would be an advertisement for something. Right. Nothing. It is just, hey, you might want to take a trip, but be warned, you might get struck by lightning and die in
Planes
the air.
do this. Right. And I love the detail of the travel agent unexpectedly having to come out, so she's still got her napkin on her, which is what they put down whenever they're touching up someone's face with makeup. So it's like,
okay.
That's not, she wasn't eating a sandwich, she was getting her makeup done, and she ran on the set, because sometimes the news anchors will do it on accident because it happens so quickly.
Okay. I thought it was a food thing.
Nope.
He's like, hey, I'd like to go to Fiji. She's like, Fiji. Type. You can't go to Fiji.
They're all booked up
for a month. I'm sorry. Do you want me to go ahead and book that? He's like, no, thank you. And he goes to the bus station. I would like a ticket to Chicago. So he gets on the bus, and the bus is selling it too hard. This bus is packed with people.
Crammed, and no one's looking at him except for in a weird way.
Just this little girl who's like, Mommy, shut up.
And there aren't that many kids, luckily. But I do wonder what it was like for him growing up and what are the ethics of that. Like, he had to have had friends.
Yeah, there were other kids. Yeah. What
Did him and his best friend grow up together? So has that guy literally been on the set as long as Truman? Like, what is the commitment here? Or do people in his life change the way they look all the time? You look different.
Maybe. So the bus driver doesn't know what to do, so he just does a lot of gear shifting and makes bus noises.
Right.
And then he's like, I'm sorry, everybody get off. We have a problem. And Truman very sadly stays on. And he's looking out the window, hopefully. And the bus driver feels really bad for him. And he's like, I'm sorry, son.
Because these are just people. And you need a lot of people to make this work. So you are going to have people who like watch him when they're not on the set too, and they care about him too, and they see what he's trying to do, and they've all been wondering when it would happen. And this little bird does want to leave the nest, and they're all being asked to stop this natural thing. So I'm sure that man does feel really bad. I mean, clearly he does, and he probably got fired for it, honestly, because anyone that's giving that much, you're breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah. He is in a later scene, but yeah, that probably does. Or at least they keep track of people. Or we only want people who are like
totally
cruelly dismissive and can separate the art from the artist.
If we could clone Laura Linney, we would.
Absolutely. So Laura Linney comes home from work and she's, had a day of it. And she's like, Truman, and he's just sitting in his car like a maniac. And he's like, oh, get in. This is a long clip. I want to play this since this is audio only. We can just play a whole clip and we won't get blocked on YouTube.
Okay.
Because I think they are both so wonderful in this scene.
I predict that in just a moment, we will see a lady on a red bike, followed by a man with flowers, and a Volkswagen Beetle with a dented fender.
Truman, please.
Look. Lady, flowers, and
Truman, this is silly.
There it is! There it is! There's the dented beetle! Yes! Don't you want to know how I did that? I'll tell you. They're on a loop. They go around the block. They come back. They go around again. They just go round and round. Round and round.
I invited Rita and Marlon for a barbecue on Sunday. I'm going to make my potato salad, and I need you to remind me that we need more charcoal.
Are you listening to a word I'm saying?
You're upset because you want to go to Fiji, is that it? Okay, go. I think you should save for a few months, and then go. There. You happy now? I'm gonna go take a shower.
Had he even told her that he wanted to go to Fiji?
Let's go now. I'm ready.
Because he seems to realize something there more deeply than what she's saying.
I feel like he's probably been talking about it even before the movie started. But yeah, I guess we might not have seen him talk to her about it. So maybe it is like, how would you know about Fiji? Mm-hmm. But everybody's talking to everybody. So, obviously he is doing his Jim Carrey thing. So wonderful. All the noises, the mania. But she's like, you can see her trying all the tricks. Like an NPC has a script she's going to go back to. But he's like, oh, fuck it. Answer me. She's like, okay. Yes, let's go to Fiji. But... And I don't know. I love the two of them right there. So they go, he takes off in the car and he's like, let's go to New Orleans. But he goes down this street, but it's full of cars. He's like, damn. Okay. So he backs.
Well orchestrated, don't you think? We'll be sitting here for hours. Change of plans. And he goes around the roundabout again, a whole lot where they did have no idea where he's going to go next. But smartly goes down the exact same street. All the cars are gone. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
She's just like, Truman, you're not right in the head. You got to stop it, please. But they get to the bridge that leads out of town, but he can't go over it. She's like, Truman, you knew this would happen. You know you can't drive over water. Let's go home where you'll feel safe. And he takes her hand, puts it on the wheel, and just hits the gas and makes her steer. And they make it over. But then outside of town, still the obstacles come. Oh, there's a forest fire, but they just drive over it. And then there's a nuclear power plant, and
there's a leak.
Oh, well, before that, she's like, but what are we going to do for money in New Orleans? He's like, well, I have my Sea Haven bank card. And she's like, we're going to eat into our savings? Even the mentality about money is very old fashioned.
That's what
like,
I keep saying.
We have our savings account, of course, honey. We wouldn't want to accrue any debt obligations. But she's just trying everything. She's like, your mother's going to feel really scared and bad. I might have to call her. But they drive by this nuclear power plant. And what Meryl says is, it looks like there's a leak at the plant. And then a cop stops them and he's like, sorry, folks, there's a leak at the plant.
Right.
So they're using the exact same language.
Right.
He's like, you'll have to turn around. Truman's like, well, thank you, officer. You're welcome, Truman. And Jim Carrey's just like,
that guy needs to get fired.
Truman. And Laura Linney's looking at him in horror because she's like, oh, he heard it. Fuck. And he gets out of the car, runs into the woods, and where he's tackled by people in nuclear power plant costumes. But it's funny because, these are just actors. They're like, I didn't know I'd have to fight somebody.
Right.
So we get back to the house and Meryl confronts Truman like, hey, I think you're having a psychotic episode. You're not well. And he
so fucked up.
Says, let me ask you something. Why do you want to have a baby with me? You can't stand me. And she says, that's not true. Now, why don't you let me fix some of this new Mococo drink? But why is she
why do that there?
Yeah.
Like,
this is why I don't think Ed Harris is telling everybody what to say all the time, because it just seems to be like what she does. It's
but they're still in damage control mode, right?
Yeah,
like, this is a really severe moment. They're not just going to let her figure it out.
But it's weird that she would go into the ad read. I know it's just a joke. The point is, he's like, you're not even responding to the very serious situation in front of me. You're talking about Cocos. And she's like, you're having a nervous breakdown. She picks up that kitchen implement that she was so excited about earlier. But he grabs it from her, holds it up to her neck, and she shouts, do something.
Who are you talking to?
Nothing.
Right,
No one.
Just like Helly. Do it, Seth.
On Severance, yes. I had a moment just like this on the latest episode. Spoiler alert, but check out our Severance recap show. Lumen is listening. And so she, is very upset. And then Marlon comes into the house with a 6-pack of brewskis and she runs into his arms crying. And she just says, how could anyone expect me to carry on in these conditions? It's unprofessional.
Right. I was going to have a professional baby with a briefcase.
So.
Well, now the main character he's shaken. He needs to be appeased in a big way. He needs to be right. He needs to be proven right in a big way. He needs to be distracted. So we go on the fucking bridge like always and have the brewskis. And I guess in this reality, they have him and his best friend have a whole long heartfelt conversation where at the end of it, for dramatic purposes, the best friend reveals, and you were right about something. It's your dad. It's like, was he just on the bridge alone this whole time?
Because everything has to be cinematic.
Right.
He can't just be there with him. It has to be. But before he does that, he's, they're having this heart to heart, and Marlon's like, like I said earlier, he gives him the thing about like, things didn't work out for either of us the way we thought they would. But now we cut away. And suddenly we hear Ed Harris's voice for the first time since the beginning of the movie. We see a few faces we haven't seen before. We see this woman. We see Paul Giamatti. And then we see Ed Harris himself and see that he is literally feeding Marlon his lines.
He's even feeding when the lighting does what? When they zoom in on what? Like,
well, that's
later. I know, but you can assume he's doing that. He's a producer. He's a director. He knows what's going to look the most compelling.
Well, because... then the dad comes out and Truman goes to hug his dad and Paul Giamatti's like, all right, we're going to pull in now. And he's like, no, hold it. Now the music. And now, so he's like orchestrating all of this, the camera angles, the camera movements, the score, and they are all just cheering because they successfully manipulated a very emotionally cathartic moment. And they're all like crying. They're so happy with the work they did. And this is where I started thinking like, this is Peter Weir saying like, this is what a director does.
Yeah.
It's not just what you show, it's how you show it. It's how you move the camera. When you go to a wide, when you go to a close up, when you bring in the music, and then like and
at what time do you introduce this in the character's life?
Mm-hmm. The network executive comes in, shakes his hand. Oh, Christoph, you're doing such a marvelous job. But like, this is also what directors do. If a director does his job or her job, they just successfully come up with emotional moments for you, the audience, to feel for entirely fictional people. But it is kind of the same thing. And a weird thing to think about yourself is like, what I do for a living is force people to feel things about fake people.
But what we do for a living is force people to use services or buy something or feel a way about a brand.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Marketing is fucked up.
Yeah, we're fucked up. We're the villains.
I know.
So yeah, everybody's very happy. And Philip Baker Hall is the network head. We see these security people who work for Ed Harris that have shirts on that say "Love him, protect him." So this is where the Vertigo comparisons. I was thinking in Vertigo, spoiler alert for Vertigo, one of the best movies ever made by Alfred Hitchcock in 1958. Jimmy Stewart plays a man. He's a private eye and he's hired by his old friend. And he's like, "Hey, Jimmy Stewart, my wife is going a little crazy. Could you follow her, please? Please do follow my crazy wife." So he follows her, and sure enough, she's doing crazy things, like going to sit at a museum and staring at the same painting for 8 hours. Like, oh, this woman seems nuts. And then he follows her to the San Francisco Bay, and she jumps in like she's going to kill herself. So he has to jump in after her. And then he takes her back to his apartment where they then fall in love. Okay. But she's still nuts. She's still going crazy. And eventually
she loves paintings, loves the water.
They go to a bell tower where she seemingly jumps to her death. And Jimmy Stewart is very distraught over this. Now we cut to a year or so later. Jimmy Stewart's walking down the street and sees a woman who looks exactly like the woman. Madeline was her name, who, you know, he was paid to follow. And he's like, you're her. And she's like, no, mister, I've never seen you before. I don't know what's going on. And he's like, no, have dinner with me. And she reluctantly accepts. And then he leaves her alone, but the camera stays with her. And now the perspective shifts. Now you're with this woman for the rest of the movie. And she reveals she was the woman he fell in love with. She was paid to play this part, paid to be this woman so that Jimmy Stewart could provide an alibi that this guy wanted to kill his wife. So we never actually met the real wife. But Jimmy Stewart fell in love with this woman who was playing a role specifically designed to make him fall in love with her. And now for the rest of the movie, what she is trying to do, because she feels guilty and because she loves him, is I will become that fake woman to please you and to not let you figure out what happened. And that's why I was making the comparison, because at this point, the movie kind of hands off to Ed Harris. It's now his perspective, the rest of the movie. And the mission he has for the rest of the movie is we need to keep Truman contained. And we need to do that by continuing to like double down to reinforce the fake reality we have. And Vertigo is also about sort of a meta commentary on filmmakers and what they do. And how it's all about manipulating the audience to have all these fake feelings. Then we have a TV special.
Oh, now it's like people want to talk to the creator of the Truman Show because a lot of things have been happening with Truman, and they just, why bring the dad back in? Why take him out? I don't really remember what they talk about, but they're just basically questioning what's your morals around this? Why even keep doing this? And are you going to keep him in? Yeah,
and I guess like answer questions that the audience, like we, the audience, have had is like, okay, how does this fucking work? Where is this anyway? Well, it's in a giant dome just north of Hollywood in Burbank.
Didn't you see it? It's fucking huge. You can see it from space.
But it's presumably in Burbank. That's why his name is Truman Burbank.
Oh.
And how you keep seeing the moon? That's actually the base where the control room is. And, he's being interviewed. Ed Harris is being interviewed by Harry Shearer, who's doing his Seymour Skinner or Kent Brockman voice. Like, well, I have an exclusive interview with Christoph. And Christoph, in addition to seeming like a director, also kind of carries himself like a magician, like a David Copperfield. And they're like, people have broken onto the set, and there've been close calls in the past. Somebody parachuted in one time, but Truman didn't notice. But it seems the father has now snuck back onto the set. But we've managed to, hire him again.
Right. We isolated the problem. We found out that he was upset that he had gotten written off. And it's like, okay, so the most like trivial, petty reason why you would do this and why take this long to do it? Why do you look this way? Why did you come on as a weirdly dressed person instead of someone who looks like the rest of the people in the town?
Yeah, why do you do that?
Like, is this man actually crazy? We really, they bring the dad on in a very dramatic way, and then we spend almost no time with him.
That is my major problem, if I have one, with the movie, is it's kind of a dead end, this dad
completely
thing.
We don't find out where he's been this whole time. We don't find out, like, what links do you guys go to manipulate Truman, tell us what you're going to say about this very weird thing that's happening.
And it goes nowhere after this.
Right.
It's never even like brought up again.
You see him one more time.
Mm-hmm. But, we were saying this on our Severance show that like, if someone outside is a threat, just pay them to work for you. And they will. Like 99% of people will because they need money.
Right.
Or they're flattered. Oh, yeah, I'd love to have my role on the show again. Okay, great. So Sylvia calls. Well, first there's a joke where they're like, we have a call now from The Hague. The Hague, you're on with Christoph. The Hague doesn't. The Hague is where the International Criminal Court is. That's the joke.
Ha.
Yeah. So then Sylvia calls and talks to Christoph, and they have a sort of annoying back and forth.
We know this voice. We do? You know her voice? And then, yeah.
It's like, what gives you the right to imprison a person? He's like, I've given him the perfect life. The world, the place, the real world is the sick place. Sea Haven's the world as it should be. And he says the crucial thing. He's like, Truman could leave anytime he wants. If it was more than a vague ambition, if he was absolutely determined to discover the truth, there's nothing we could do to prevent him. And this is like,
liar.
This is like what dictators say.
Yes.
They're like, listen, if the people weren't happy with me being in control of the country, they could rise up and violently overthrow me.
They'd have to be okay with maybe dying.
Yeah.
And so does Truman. Truman almost fucking dies to discover this.
Yeah. Abusive people say this, like, if you really had a problem with it, you'd get out.
Yep.
And but Christoph teases new plot developments. Truman's wife is going to leave him and he's going to find a new love. And then there's that really great shot where we have the giant shot of Truman sleeping and Ed Harris walks over and pets his nose.
And now Truman we don't know this yet, but he has developed a plan. He's getting the fuck out of here, but he pretends to be back to his old normal self and does a special little fake moon landing thing in the mirror. And after it, he says, and that one was for free or something like that.
Yeah, and he winks at the camera.
Right. And it's like, I know you're fucking watching.
But Paul Giamatti in the control room is like, Truman's back to himself. Great.
Right. And we don't like watch him do.
We just watch him go through his normal day, being exactly like he was at the beginning of the movie.
Because he's fooling us too.
Yes. But then that night, they're like, yeah, he moved down here to the basement now that Meryl has left him. He's asleep on that cot. But Ed Harris comes in. He's like, nobody told me he changed his bedroom. I'm like, well, it didn't seem like it was a big deal. But Ed Harris is suspicious. He's like, suspicious. He's like, let's review the tape. And he goes, through the whole day. And he's like, what's that? Enhance. That's a foot under the dresser. Bah. So they send Marlon in. And he's like, Truman, I'm here with some brewskis.
Right,
Truman.
like, what time is it? It's 4 a.m.
Pulls the blanket out from the bed, and it's a snowman in the bed. What the fuck? And he goes and opens the closet and sees a tunnel that Truman has built. Truman has Shawshank Redemptioned himself. He's pulled a Ferris Bueller and an Andy Dufresne in the same scene. And he's dug a tunnel up to the lawn. And then Ed Harris is like, cut transmission. And so they cut transmission for the first time in 30 years. And we see the bar and a bartender drops a glass and you hear somebody in the crowd shout, good God in heaven.
Yeah. And interesting that they had this graphic ready if they've never actually had to fucking use it.
You got to be prepared for everything.
It's true. And now there's a nation. Now they're just like, fuck it. We're totally prepared to blow this shit wide open because it makes no sense why the entire town is looking for him shoulder to shoulder. He's not a child. He's a grown ass man. He can leave whenever he wants to.
I think though, if they find him, they're going to be like, you see how much everyone cares about you, Truman, trying to make it like It's a Wonderful Life or something. See, no one has to leave when you have all these friends.
Who knows how they're going to spin it. But like in the meantime, they look crazy. They're saying things that are very casual that are breaking the fourth wall. Like, what is he up to now? Like they're discussing him like he's not their friend or family.
Mm-hmm. And Philip Baker Hall is yelling at Christoph. He's like, the sponsors are on my ass. And he's like, why? This technical difficulties graphics gotten us better ratings than ever. Everybody in the world is now tuning in. What the hell? But Ed Harris finally realizes, I know where he is. He's on a boat on the ocean. They find him.
We've created the perfect cover for him because it's the one place he knows we wouldn't look.
Yes. Resume transmission. The whole world is now watching him on the boat. And then Ed Harris, the director, is like, go to the cabin cam. Perfect. That's our hero shot. And Jim Carrey does look like a goddamn hero sailing this boat. So they're like, get somebody on the ferry to chase after him. And there's a funny moment.
No one knows
how to drive it. And like, why not? Because they're actors.
Right. There's not any, I mean, you have this whole thing where people can get on the water, but you have no like safety precautions in place. You have no like emergency dinghy that can go help someone if they go in the water and it's
right.
I don't know.
So what can we do to stop him? Ed Harris and Paul Giamatti, they turn on Lacey's least favorite thing, a squall.
Fucking hate the squall. God damn it. They're tossed. Wait, did they turn the lights on yet?
They already did that.
Oh, okay. They turned the sun on.
They turned the sun on.
They've completely given up on trying to pretend that this is
Even
not
though it's
fake.
2 a.m. right now. Right. They're like, once we turn on the weather, he'll get too scared and he'll turn back. But he's not. He's fighting valiantly. And the people watch at home as he gets, tossed around on the water, on the high seas, and they're cheering. We keep seeing the guy in his bathtub watching the TV. It always stresses me out to see this guy in the bathtub.
But he knows there's something deep down in him that he knows they can't kill me. I don't know what it is about me, but they in his head, I think he's thinking, I'm just going to keep going. They can't kill me. Mm-hmm. This is all about me. Now, I mean, Ed Harris gets way too close. I mean, he very well could have. Any of this could have killed him. And they have no one to come out there and save him.
And in fact, Jim Carrey did nearly drown filming this.
Oh my God.
So they had divers. This is all in a tank, but this, it's still very dangerous. And they have divers, and he has a hand signal that he's supposed to give if he gets in trouble, but they couldn't tell he was giving it. They thought it was just the normal way somebody was moving. So he was very upset about that. But it's a very intense scene, and he shouts, "Is that the best you can do? You're going to have to kill me." So Ed Harris is like, "All right." Now he's the angry parent who's like, "You think you're so smart, Missy? Well, fuck you." Turns up the storm to 11. And finally, he's like, fuck it. He's done it. He's withstood the storm. So turn back on the good weather. Smooth sailing up ahead. And it's all so cool. He's just very serenely floating to he doesn't know where, but he's made past the danger. And then just the most amazing thing, suddenly the boat casts a shadow into the sky and the boat crashes into the background.
Yeah.
Bumps into the wall. The mask goes through the wall. And he plays this so well, Jim Carrey. He gets out, he looks at the wall, and he very, very carefully touches it, sees that it's solid, and he just goes, oh, because like he's validated. Finally, he knows.
Yeah.
He knows for sure he has proof. So he like tries to punch through it, and then gets out of the boat and realizes he can walk alongside the wall, and it looks like he's walking on water.
Mm-hmm. And he finds a set of stairs, which you got to think, are these like every 1 mile apart? Like how many sets are these? Lucky where he landed.
Yeah, that's an IATSE rule.
Oh, right. Union. Got it. I made the brilliant observation that this fucking dome is on top of, it's above Los Angeles, and they have a full fucking sea. And he poked a hole.
This is up in the hills. Yeah, this is bad.
He almost caused a landslide, guys, a mudslide or whatever. He's going to drown. You ever see videos of someone like just popping their backyard pool on accident? Just a regular above ground pool. That shit floods the neighborhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Imagine this.
Yeah, for all 2 people who have seen the Latvian animated movie Flow, which is nominated for Best Animated Feature, the flood in that movie is actually caused by Truman Burbank. Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So he climbs the stairs and sees there's a door with exit on it. Yep. He opens it. He's about to go through. And then all of a sudden, Ed Harris speaks to him.
Fuck it.
Truman.
This is your dad.
Truman. Who are you? I'm the creator of a television show. And he's like, well, who am I? You're the star. And he is a star because, well, first, it's like, was nothing real? And Ed Harris says, you were real. That's what made you so good to watch. But I just want you to know, this world I've created for you, or the world out there, it's no more real than the world in here, but it's full of lies and deceit. We're in here, everything's good, and you will always be safe.
And it's full of lies and deceit.
But
the fuck?
But he's also saying like, but I know you're not going to go through that door because I know you better than you know yourself. And Truman then says, you never had a camera in my head. I love that line. He's like, no, you're afraid. That's why you won't leave. But Truman is afraid, but he will leave anyway.
Heavy-handed again. The whole fucking time you've been making moves that are too heavy-handed, and you overplayed your cards right here, sir. Don't tell him what he is. He's defiant. You tell him what it is, and he's going to do the opposite. Like, do you not know him at all? Creator?
Yeah, you're making the mistakes that parents make, because he then lays on the parent thing on. He's like, I've been watching you since you were born. I was there when you took your first step.
Who asked you to?
You belong here with me. This is like if I'm your parent,
brought
I own
you into this world, right?
He's like, well, talk to me. Say something. You're on television. You're live to the whole world. And Jim Carrey, looks at the camera, and Truman is naturally just a star. He's got the riz, and he perfectly delivers his catchphrase. In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
He's been taught. He's a fucking stage. He's a stage kid. He's been handled by his mom to be just the perfect little good boy. That's why all of his actions are so put on. He's big, over dramatic. He's been trained to give the camera what the camera wants. And so,
but now when he's giving you the thing you don't want, he does it in the most impressive, dramatic way. It's like how so many activists you find out we're theater kids because
you need it.
Yes, that's how you translate. You have to learn these things. You have to learn how to get over on the crowd. And he steps through the door, and then we cut to the outside world. Sylvia's running down the stairs and putting on her coat. She's going to go run to the dome.
I like that they don't show it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's it.
Ed Harris takes off his glasses very sadly. He's going to have to start from scratch, season 2, with a new person.
And that whole fucking world just lost their job.
That's true.
It is.
No,
he just tanked the economy.
Yeah, they're going to try. They're going to try. Joe Millionaire tried a second season, but it just wasn't the same without the first Joe Millionaire,
Thanks.
And then the last shot of the movie is just the 2 security guards who's like, what else is on? I don't know, TV Guide. That's it. That's the movie.